Okay, you're going to be me today. Yeah. So that means you got to stand, and I'm sitting, and you're going to ask me questions.
How you call yourself a sociologist? What does that really mean? Like, what do you think of yourself doing day to day? Like, obviously, you're a teacher, you're a professor, but like, what does sociology mean to you? How did you decide to get in it? Because you mentioned like you got kind of bad grades in school, but you still decided to go and get a PhD and continue learning. So like, how did you make that decision? Like, what about sociology was interesting to you?
For me, the reason I got into it is because I took one sociology class. After I decided I was going to get really serious about school, I took one sociology class, and it just blew my mind open. Just thinking about how human behavior is shaped by things that they don't see. And I'll give you, there are exactly 3 things I remember from my undergraduate years. 3 things. That's it. I was an undergrad for 5 years. I remember 3 things. That's why I teach the class like this, because I don't expect you to remember anything, and you don't need to remember anything. Well, 3 things. You should all just 3. That's my magical number. Okay? Here's what I remember. When you're in a jury, I took a whole class on courtroom and social psychology, and when you go into the jury room, let's say this is the table, and if you sit at the end of the table, not here in the middle, and if you're the first one to speak, what I learned was that not only will you get more authority than everybody else, but they are much more likely to select you as the leader. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Isn't that similar to like primacy bias, where like you talk to someone and you trust more the first person that you talk to?
Yeah, there you go. See there? Okay. Anyway, I started learning things like that, and it was just so fascinating to me that I said, I just have to do this my whole life.
So I think the United States does a very good job of kind of pushing our country as being like the most educated. We've got the best universities, we've got like the best life, like we've all fought for this. And in a sense, I feel like as like I've traveled to other countries and stuff, some people that I traveled with were like, oh my God, like meeting these people from like other countries, I didn't know it was like this. I didn't know that it wasn't just like a war-torn country, or I didn't know they actually knew things, like that they were smart. And also watching some of the videos prepping for the exam, like the guys going to like Iraq and stuff, they also said that. So I'm wondering, how do you think, and like why do you think the U.S. does that and makes this like impression of the United States being this like lone and like good, or like the best country, basically?
Well, this is a really cool question. I think most everybody does it in most every country. Even countries that you wouldn't imagine would do that. They always have certain things about them that they think are special. So it could be El Salvador or Botswana or wherever. It doesn't matter. There's something about them that's really special and that they excel in, and they hold that up. It has value for them. And but I think some of the more developed countries, some of the countries that are kind of more out in the world that other people look to, like the U.S., we will do it a little bit more. And I think that mostly we do it because when we don't have the experience of other people. And once you have the experience, it just completely changes everything. And part of the reason why I am able to be who I am is because I've been so many places with so many people, the poorest of the poor and the richest of the rich. Man, I have met some of the world's absolute most wealthiest human beings on the planet and spent time with them, and have people who have absolutely nothing. And so everything in between. So like that means that for me, I can walk through the world in very much what would be like a much less, I would say but I would say less. I would say almost non-judgmental perspective of seeing things. Everything is just different. It's not hierarchical. Yeah. So I think it's a human trait. It's not really about the U.S.
Okay. And you were saying you've met people who are like in all sorts of positions of like power or lack thereof. Yeah. What do you think? I mean, America obviously has like the dirty rich, the billionaires, the people who are controlling like most everything.
Be careful about that.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to be really careful because that's not necessarily true.
Okay. Why isn't that true then? That's my question.
Because there are wealthy and powerful people all over the world that are shaping so many different aspects of the world that people here can't even touch, that we're not part of. Decision making and all sorts of things that we're just not part of. Yeah, it's not a... Yeah, you really gotta, you have to touch wealth around the world, like power around the world. And when you touch wealth, when you engage wealth and power around the world, you will be blown away by what you encounter and by how much is happening out there that we know nothing about. We don't care about it. We don't know about it. We don't think about it. We don't account for it. And it's like, man, it's all happening. Man, holy smokes. Yeah, so you got to be really careful about that.
So people say that like once you become like super rich or whatever, like it changes you personally. What do you think you've seen? Generally speaking, what have you seen the difference to be on like just a human level and like personality wise between people who like have all this money, have all this power and control versus people who simply don't? Yeah.
So most people don't change very much in their lives. So if you're mostly a kind of a down-to-earth, humble person when you're young, when things come at you in different ways, you'll continue to be a down-to-earth, humble person. Most people. Some people, they struggle with that and they shift, but mostly they don't. The best thing to do is be humble and kind and giving when you're really young. And then no matter what comes at you, you're more likely to sustain that throughout your life. Yeah, and that's the key. And if you do it right, you don't change. For me, for example, it's only been very recently since, like in this class, like the live stream starts to take off and things start to happen that I never planned. It was never planned. It just happened that way. Well, I lived my whole life just being me, so I can be me. It doesn't change at all. Nothing changes. So, but if it happens when you're really young, like some of you might think like, oh, I wish I had this big thing happen to me when I'm young. I'm like, don't wish for that. Form your personality first. Form who you are, and then go out in the world in that way. It's much easier. Yeah.
So from your perspective, people have, or if somebody has a very strong idea of who they are, what their ideals are from a young age, and if they're like taught to have those things, then they'll change less as a person.
Yeah, they'll be less troubled. Let me just say that. Because it's really hard. You feel like this desire, there's always this like tension to be somebody other than who you are. And you need to be comfortable in the shoes in which you're in before you start trying on all these other shoes. It's very difficult.
Do you think people are taught to do that, to be comfortable with who they are?
No, mostly you're not. Look, the whole world is set up to get you to consume. And the way we get you to consume is to not be happy with who you are. So buy new pants or do this or do that or whatever it is, or get this new app on your phone or buy this new phone or do this or whatever it is. Like, just keep being unhappy because because you're more likely to consume.
So capitalism is the issue.
Well, no, it's just production and consumption, really. Capitalism is nothing more than simply it's just, capitalism is as old as life itself, basically. The sociology of capitalism. So, yeah, that's not a critique of capitalism. It's just how life is.
With a class that's as big as this, with a ton of people from different backgrounds and different political ideologies, you have to be very neutral when you are like making these conversations happen. They may be like issues that people get really divided on. And so how do you kind of navigate it without like letting on too much where your own political stance is?
Because I don't have a political stance anymore. I am so fascinated by everything that's happening in the world. I'm so fascinated by everything that every single person says who's up here on the table. I'm so interested in what they say and how they got to that idea that I no longer even know what I think about things anymore. And that allows me to just be in this space of deep curiosity. And it doesn't matter what I think, because it's irrelevant. The world doesn't change. Nothing changes. What's most interesting is for me to just be interested. It doesn't matter what your thoughts are, you know?
Okay.
Like if you come up here and you're like, oh, I hate Donald Trump, or I love Donald Trump. Those are the same statements to me. Because all I want to know is, wait, how'd you get to that? What do you see? What do you see that I don't see? You know? So that to me, and that's what our two facilitators here were saying. That's to me, that's the way of the educated. That's a liberal education. Not liberal, politically liberal. I mean liberal in the classical liberal sense of where you take responsibility for yourself and you see yourself as an entity walking through the world. So you want to be as open as you can toward everything. There's only one thing I'm closed-minded about. I've openly been closed-minded, and people have sent me things to try to change my mind, and I can't. I just have not changed my mind. I'm just like, nope, that's a no-go for me.
Are we allowed to know
There's
what
a couple
that
of
is?
things. Yeah, well, the one thing that's out in the world, I mean, there are certain things like things that happen to children. Okay, well, that everybody agrees with that. That's neither. But it's female genital mutilation, which is practiced by many cultures. And I've had people in those cultures send me emails, and I've been in long exchanges with them. It's like, convince me that it's okay. And they haven't been able to thus far. Women, man, you know. Older people, women my age, man. And I'm like, yeah, keep it coming, but I can't go there. That's the only thing. Yeah, and I'm proud of that I have one thing that I'm closed-minded about.
This might be a really mundane question, but I've always wondered about the beads that you like in your hands.
So when I first started teaching a larger class, it was only the size, so it's 119, it was the size of this one section right here, about 150 seats. At the very beginning of the semester, some Buddhist monks came through town, walking through town. Man, I mean, I don't remember where they came from, but they walked a hell of a long way to get here. Anyway, the one monk gave me some beads, Buddhist prayer beads. And I just had them in class the next day because they felt really grounding. And from that moment on, I always had beads. And so now, like these, I got these. These I bought for myself. Usually I don't buy, they come to you, you know. I got these in Cairo during Ramadan a couple years ago at 2 a.m. You know, so here's a cool thing, right? If you ever get a chance to be in a Muslim country during Ramadan, it's just oh man, it's God. I got a haircut at 3 a.m, you know, because everything's open all night long, and that was really cool. So anyway, I just always have prayed. So they're prayer beads. They just help ground me to feel. It's hard. It's not easy to be up here doing this. And yeah, so anyway, that's the purpose. I always have them.
You've been teaching the class for about 40 years. What do you think about passing the torch, whether it is through inability of being able to teach the class or whatever reason you cannot continue the class? Have you thought about it? What is what's your plan for Such 119 as time goes on beyond your persona? Because
as we learned from Blake last week, I'm old, right? Blake, I'm just, dude, I got it. No, and seriously, I would love to see, I loved the idea. I've really tried to mentor other people to teach a section of this class. So I taught in African and African American studies here at Penn State for about 15 years. I taught a class, and I was a sociologist, but I was an adjunct professor in African studies. And I'm always trying to wanting to mentor other people to do this. But, people don't seem to be that. I haven't been able to find anybody. But it may be that, there's no torch that gets passed. I just drop the mic and, and I die. I don't know. Maybe I die before I stop teaching. Just kind of cool.
Yeah, how often does the university get annoyed at you? Because it's a huge class, and you've mentioned before, I can't say that, or the university is going to get annoyed at me again. So but they keep letting you do your thing.
No, but mostly we haven't had many mishaps. Sometimes there'll be a student up on the table, and I'll say something that they interpret the wrong way, and then and they'll interpret some way, and then they'll maybe say, hey, Sam said whatever. But it's all recorded, so, you can watch it and see. And then sometimes people don't understand, A, my sense of humor, and they don't always understand it. And B, sometimes people don't understand that I'm really just so I just don't judge in that way, man. I'm just everything it's just curious. I'm just curious about everything. And so sometimes that happens.
Last week you mentioned that one of the most interesting things was death. Like that's something you're really curious about. What do you think happens when someone dies?
Well, I read a lot about death. Like I'm always reading about people who have after-life experiences or after death. People call them different things, but they die and they come back to life. I am obsessed with reading people's stories about what happens. I think we go back to the life force. And I think all the religions, at some level, all the religions are all speaking the same truth. They're all pointing to the life force. The life force is the God. And it's an energy. So I'm not afraid at all of dying. At all. I'm sad. I don't want to die. I'm so happy, so engaged in life. So I hope I don't die anytime soon. If I do, it's okay, because the moment I cross over, it's fine. But I don't want to, But I'm excited by it. Everything I hear is like, it's pretty cool, man. That next world is pretty cool. Yeah, so I'm not at all afraid.